reason why, and I have somebody who work here, you come into the stores and you see like, you know, piles of containers of white and black lettering, you know, and it gets a little overwhelming, like what is all this stuff used for? So that's the whole purpose of this. There are hundreds of products that Golden makes. They have very specialized reasons, and it sort of helps us as artists to know really basically what they're used for. Right? You all have these information books, which are really, really good. Actually, grab one. We'll just talk about this. This has a lot of information. I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff tonight, but you know, a lot of it is almost too much to remember. Okay, so this is a good starting place to refresh your memory. Also, their website, and finally, their 800 number, which is listed on the back. And it's good for technical support. Call them up if you ever have a question that you can't find easily. They have a whole staff of people who are there, who are trained to help, and they have like a lot more knowledge than I have, and they get paid to play with all this stuff. And then finally, sign up for their newsletter if you want. There is a copy of it in the book. There should be a copy of it. Yeah, just like this. You can also get it online, but like I said, sign up for it and you can have it mailed to you. In the book, we have, sometimes people like to know this, the lecture notes things. You can write down some notes as I talk. On the left-hand side towards the front of the folder is this. Take it out and open it up. It's their color chart. And what's unusual about this color chart?
It's real paint?
It's real paint. It's real paint. If you look at the lower right-hand side, you'll see the person who painted it for you. Golden is located up in New Berlin, New York. If you're ever in the area that's near Cooperstown, if you're ever near in the area, give them a call and see if you can get a factory tour. And it's actually really kind of cool to go see all this lovely, sexy paint being made. Yeah, this is all real paint, and if you think about it, it's the only way to have a color chart. Doesn't matter how expensive a print job is, if you're looking at a print or a photograph of the color, it is going to be off. That's why it's real important to actually see the real thing. And the funny story behind this is, Golden started making paint in 1980. I started using it in like 81, maybe 82, I think it was 81. And in those days, we didn't have all the technology that we have now. You have your digital printers and you get a really pretty good copy. That was the old 4-color printing, which was very expensive, and they couldn't afford it. So actually, Mark Golden's mother would sit at the kitchen table and hand paint these things. And that's how it started. It became very popular, and put it up on your studio wall. On the inside section, that's stapled. This is where there's a lot of frequently asked questions. It gives a little bit of history of the company, and it's a good place to start. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of different products, and I'm only going to touch on a few of them. This is also kind of cool. I just happened to open for this. Is their little virtual paint mixing thing that's on their website. So if you want to try to match a color, you have these little sliders, and you can actually get the color pretty close. Of course, you're looking at a computer monitor, but it's a helpful little tool. What else? Like I said, the frequently asked questions is a good source. Like it breaks things down between mediums and the gels and all this different stuff. And we're going to go into what this stuff is right about now. So we have that. Very helpful. So now we're going to start talking about paint. I mean, that's what we're all here for, right? Most paints start with this stuff right here. Powdered pigment. You sell any powdered pigment?
Yeah.
You do. When I went to the academy, they made us all make our own paint. And every time I walk into an art supply store, I'm really thankful to the art gods that there are art supply stores, because I'm not a chemist. I want to paint. There's nothing wrong with mixing your own paint. It's a great thing to learn how to do. And I'm going to touch a little on chemistry because it's important that as artists we understand how the stuff works so we can make it work better. But for the most part, and there are a lot of exceptions, but for the most part, this is pretty much the same over all the different mediums. Right? Anyone want to guess what color this is? And yes, I know it's blue.
Cadmium blue.
Huh?
Cadmium.
It's a good guess. Not right, but good. Cobalt's a very good guess. A lot of people usually go to cobalt. It's actually ultramarine. So think about that. Think of how an ultramarine blue looks like when it's in paint form. This is how it is as powdered pigment. All right? I'm going to talk a lot about pigment because this is the expensive stuff in paint. All right? This is what you pay for. This is what separates the student grade from the professional quality grade. Golden only makes professional. They do not make the student grade quality paint. And it is really what separates, you know, the $200 tube from the $5 tube. It's the amount and the quality of the pigment. Right? The thing that's different between the different mediums is, and really better than the term medium is really binder. And the binder is sort of like the glue that holds the pigment to the substrate. The substrate is whatever we're choosing to work on, whether it's canvas, whether it's wood panel. You know, there's so many different products out there, whether it's especially treated aluminum, what I work on. You know, it's the glue that holds the pigment to the substrate, right? So the binder for oil paint is linseed oil. The binder for watercolor up until very recently is gum arabic. And the binder for acrylic paint is polymer acrylic resin. A better term actually is acrylic dispersion because it's actually much more descriptive of what it is. And we sell it as polymer medium. Sorry, I deal with the light. And when it's wet, this is live TV. Sorry. One of the first things they say is, make sure your containers are open so you're not embarrassed. I don't know what the heck, it's not the first time I've embarrassed myself. And it's still not coming out. All right, so I'm going to just pour it. I'm not really sure why it's doing that. Acrylic is a great binder, so you want to get in the habit of cleaning your tops. Okay, so the important part about this is when it's wet, it's white, kind of cloudy, and when it dries clear and glossy. Why do we care about that? From this to this, because this is what counts for the color shift in acrylic paint. You ever notice how the colors change, how they dry a little bit differently? That's always going to dry a little bit darker. Why? Because of this effect. Right now, what's happening is this is 50% water, and inside that is 50% acrylic solids. What's happening is the light's going in, bouncing off those solids, and it's giving the illusion of it being white or lighter. So every color is going to be darker when this effect goes away. And acrylic paint dries by the evaporation and the absorption of water, in contrast to how oil paint dries, which is how? That's a chemical reaction, where it kind of like constantly builds on itself, and that's why acrylic oil paint is always drying. So this is the evaporation and the absorption of water. So what happens is when that water starts evaporating and being absorbed, those solids come together, that effect goes away, and it will appear clear and glossy. So it is important to notice because all colors are going, and there's a color shift in all paints. Oil paint too, you just don't notice it as much. You know? Water has a lot of issues. We need it, but it also can be very difficult to work with. Think about if I had a handful of flour and I dropped it on water, what would it do? It's just going to float there, right? That's because of the surface tension of the water. You need to get something to make it a much smoother blend. The thing about oil, you know, you take a powdered pigment and you mix it with oil. What's oil? It's slippery, right? Kind of slimy. So it allows for a smoother blend. Water has a very high surface tension. So if I were to take a piece of raw canvas duck and drop some water on it, what's good about this is we don't have a large crowd. See how the water is just sitting there? This is a bad paint film, right? It's not doing anything. If I go like this, it just fell all off. This is why, how many people add water to their paint, to their acrylic paint? Be honest. You don't really want to do that unless you're going for a watercolor effect, all right? And then you need to do other stuff, because what you've done, if you put a lot of water into your paint, you're really pushing it. You run the risk of getting a bad paint film. Golden is pretty good. You'd have to put a lot of water in, but there's still other stuff that you should do. Making oil paint's pretty simple. You take linseed oil, you take some Damar varnish, you take the powdered pigment, you grind it up, and then you're ready to paint. And that's what we do at the Academy. With acrylic paint, you can make that too, but it's a little bit more difficult. And it goes back once again to the surface tension of the water. So if you are watering down your paint to have a watercolor effect, what you want to do is get this stuff called acrylic flow release. This is an additive. This is not the binder. This is not the medium. This is an additive. Whenever something says additive, and I don't even know if it says additive on here, but it does in the paperwork. This stuff is an additive, and retarder is an additive, right? Whenever you deal with one of those, you want to read the directions and just put 1 or 2 drops in. Don't go more, it's not better in this at all. You can really mess up your paint. You put too much retarder in your paint, it will not dry. And if you put too much of this stuff in, it just gets kind of weird. But if you're doing a watercolor-like effect, then what you want to do is you mix up some paint, you put a couple of drops of this in, mix it up. Oh, I have to tell you what it is. Okay, I'm sorry, I think I'm doing this in only 2 hours of sleep. But anyway, it's not your fault, is it? Acrylic flow release, what this is surfactant. What surfactant is detergent. Think about detergent like what you'd wash your dishes with. It's kind of slimy, right? It's slick. That reduces the surface tension of the water. So if you're really, putting a lot of water in your paint,